The fabric of space-time can't keep up with it, and it'll just rip. I'm terrified by this. The night sky is changing right now in a way that will make it impossible to recognize in a few decades, if not years. Astronomers all over the world have sent out an alert. Neil deGrasse Tyson and other experts have just revealed that Polaris is about to blow up, and the story behind it is scary. Its unique place as the North Star comes from the fact that it is in the middle of the night sky. Polaris was the one thing that scientists, navigators, and people who look at the stars could always count on, until now. This could change soon, and when it does, our night sky and math for measuring the stars could also change. It will never be the same. Come with us as we talk about how dangerous this threat is and what it means for all of us as Polaris's story comes to a close. Let's look into it. Polaris has been respected for a long time as the North Star that guides sailors, scientists, and sailors for hundreds of years as a way to find their way. Its steady appearance in the night sky has been an important part of using the starry sky at night, but everything could change in an instant. A new study given by the prestigious Royal Astronomical Society in September 2023 has put a shadow of doubt over the fate of this bright star in the sky. The star is about to blow up, and then it will never be seen again in the night sky. For now, let's look at the star before we talk about what this means. Polaris, which is also called the North Star or the Pole Star, is one of the most important stars in the sky because it is close to the heavenly North Pole. It's almost straight above the North Pole of the Earth, which makes it look like it's not moving in the sky over the north. It's in the constellation Ursa Minor, which is also called the Little Dipper or the Small Dipper. In terms of size, Polaris is a yellow-white supergiant star that isn't too bright, a star that is much farther away than our Sun but much bigger and brighter than it. Its diameter is thought to be 40 times that of the Sun. People often think of Polaris as a single star, but it is actually one of 3 stars that form a complicated triangle galaxy of stars. Polaris A, Polaris AA, and Polaris AB are the main stars, which look like a single star to the human eye. These two and a third object, Polaris B, move around in the pair. The way these stars interact with each other makes a gravity pull that shapes their paths and changes how each of them acts. Such complex processes also change the brightness and properties of the stars involved. Since these relationships can go wrong, any changes to them can cause the star's patterns of brightness or pulses, but we don't yet know the exact ways these relationships work or how complicated they are. What we do know is that Polaris is 323 light-years away. In other words, the light from Polaris is the same now as it was 323 years ago. Because Polaris is so far away, we wouldn't know about an explosion there until 323 years later. In a few years, when we see the event from Earth, it will have been going on for more than 300 years. As you might expect, expert statements are based on the real-world facts we see, so Polaris might have already burst by now, but we haven't seen it yet. We still haven't seen the light from that event. The North Star has been important to many countries and times throughout history, giving important societal, geographical, and symbolic value because it stays in the same place near the heavenly North Pole. It is very useful. Ancient sailors and explorers used it to help them find their way. It was a sort of guiding light that helped sailors find their way across the seas and come down. It was a good point of reference because it was almost straight on with the Earth's axis, a way to figure out which way to go, especially in the northern hemisphere. In many traditions, Polaris is a sign of something important. In some cultures, it stood for steadiness and consistency. It's also thought of as a pole star that has stayed put in the middle of the dance of the stars of the sky at night. In stories and folk tales, it often stood for direction, security, or an anchor in the sky. It was also very important for measuring galactic distances and setting instruments. These pulsations follow a pattern that can be predicted, at least that's how the star usually acts, which makes it easy to guess what the pattern will be. But lately, the star hasn't been acting the way people usually expect. Astronomers have no idea why its pulse cycle isn't regular in this disturbing way. A better look at this strange thing in the sky shows that Polaris's pulsations are no longer following a regular pattern. Instead, they are becoming more random and looping, getting darker and brighter. There is now a lot of talk about the problem among scientists who say the star may be almost dead. This fits with what we see when a star is getting close to the end of its life. The steadily lengthening of Polaris's pulse period, which had been steady in its cycle of fading and lighting, is caused by the way the stars engage with each other. From our end, we can see that the yearly increase in the length of the pulses stays the same at 4 minutes and 5 seconds. It might not seem important, but it is. The changes in Polaris's atmosphere may have been caused by the stars interacting with each other, factors that have a direct effect on its heartbeat patterns. But some people are not convinced. They think the star will blow up soon. There's a good reason to think this because Polaris's strange behavior is very similar to the star Betelgeuse. Like Polaris, Betelgeuse, a bright star in the constellation Orion, has shown discouraging changes in its brightness, leading to rumors of a possible imminent explosion. An awful lot of experts have already warned that the star will end soon. Changes seen in both stars' brightness and patterns are similar, which makes them very interesting similarities in the way they behave during their sunset stages. Cepheid stars show these kinds of trends in how they act before they reach where their life cycles come to an end. Even though these celestial bodies have been pulsing regularly for eons, they go through strange changes in how bright they are as the end of their trips through the stars draws near. NASA was very interested in the strange things that Betelgeuse was doing. The agency's increased worry about Betelgeuse's possible blast is different from the strange things that have been seen in Polaris. Even though NASA is very interested in an alert to Betelgeuse's strange behavior, concern and similar close attention have not yet been officially announced for Polaris. Cepheid stars start a long trip through different stages of their growth. When stars are young, their temperatures and brightness are not very high. After this, they move on to the major sequence phase, which is marked by nuclear fusion, where they stay the same for billions of years. As their hydrogen fuel runs out, they eventually move into the red giant phase, which is marked by the warmth and brightness rising quickly. During the red giant phase, the star's energy output goes through a huge jump, which ends in a terrible explosion. A supernova is the name for the bright show that happens when they shed their upper layers. A white dwarf is the name for the thick, compact body that is left over after an explosion. Polaris's uneven pulses have led experts to believe that the star has entered the stages of helium loss that can be seen in Cepheid stars that are getting close to the end of their lives. When a Cepheid star runs out of steady helium, it goes through irregular pulsations, which change how bright it is. This loss sets off a chain of events that can cause light sources to be off at odd times, possibly showing how Polaris is going through the depletion process. It's important to keep in mind, though, that while these strange things do match up with behaviors, proof that Polaris is really showing Cepheid star traits in their dusk stages, getting close to the end of its life cycle, is still not clear. Astronomers are still looking into and trying to figure out what these strange events mean. What will happen to Polaris? It's likely that Polaris going supernova would be a beautiful sight in the sky. The star would suddenly get so bright that it might be brighter than the moon, becoming one of the brightest things in the night sky. This might go on for days, weeks, or even months. It's possible that the star will look very different. It might change into a bright point of light or a moving object, and it might even grow bright colors before going away. We, on the other hand, would be completely safe. Polaris's size and weight make it likely that the Earth would be safe even if the star were to blow up. A Polaris explosion might not be as impressive to look at as a Betelgeuse explosion. It might still be bright enough to see with the human eye for a long time and outshine nearby stars. Many astronomers and telescopes would pay attention, as well as scientists in general, and stargazers all over the world would be interested in the event. Still, the exact site and effect on Earth's atmosphere or surroundings would be less important than a supernova event that happened closer. What about the star, though? Along the edge of a possible stellar event, what will happen after the disaster of the North Pole? Let us clear this up. A supernova is generally how big stars die, but this probably won't be the case with Polaris. Usually, When a very large star goes supernova, it has a huge blast inside it. This is the last terrible thing that will happen in that star's life. The last stage of its life. When this happens, the star will usually collapse into a black hole or a small, thick neutron star. But because Polaris is a special Cepheid star, it might not go supernova. It could eventually turn into a white dwarf and live for a while in this slow state. The galaxy would start to fall apart as soon as the stellar mass dies. It's a normal thing to think that the North Star is lost because it's so useful and because Polaris has a special place in society and culture. Many groups would look at the event with mixed feelings of amazement and worry, as it would mean losing an important guide in the sky at night. It's also likely that a supernova explosion will lead to the birth of new stars and other celestial bodies. In the end, even though it might be sad to say goodbye to a cosmic light that has been a friend for thousands of years, we can also take comfort in knowing that it could lead to the birth of new celestial bodies, making sure that the cycle of star birth and death goes on in the universe. The biggest thing is the big change in our night sky that would follow. If the North Star is lost, our view of the sky at night would change in a big way, and we'd have to change our star maps. But even if the star is lost, we'll have the memories and stories it gave us, as well as new things to look at in the sky at night. No matter what happens, we will keep looking at the wonders of the universe, fascinated by the beauty and secrets of the galaxy. The time it takes to study such celestial events shows how important the journey of human study is. Even though the story of Polaris has a sad ending, it also shows how big and connected the universe is, which makes us feel awestruck and curious.